Hi everyone and welcome. From time to time I have the pleasure to talk with fellow negotiators. Today I have Jens as a guest. Jens is director at PwC and responsible for negotiations. Hi Jens.
I'm Jan.
Jens, would you please introduce yourself? Tell us something about yourself.
I'm Jens Wallraven, born and raised in Düsseldorf, studied economics and communication in Paris, France, lived for a couple of years in Africa, namely in Lusaka and Johannesburg, where I started my professional career. When I came back after 5 years to Hamburg, I started working in imperial market research and then very quickly moved into the consulting business with PwC. I've worked for more than 10 years in consulting and at PwC with various responsibilities from client feedback, sales curriculum, bid and proposal management, and obviously now also in negotiations. I am also have got a lectureship in a university here in Germany for business ethics and service management. And I'm a certified negotiator from Schranner, Harvard, and En Garde. I've worked throughout my life internationally. I've negotiated a lot, and that was probably one of the reasons why I, in the beginning, slipped into negotiations, found it wonderful, and it actually became a passion of mine.
Jens, we at I&P we see four aspects that are crucial for negotiations. From your personal and business experience as a negotiator, how important is mindset for a negotiation?
On a scale to 1 to 10, I'd give it a sound 8. Mindset is really important. If you enter into a negotiation and you feel insecure, you don't have the self-confidence to lead, you put yourself into a really difficult situation. Your counterpart will immediately see what this is all about, and he will feel that you're insecure, and he will use that for his advantage. So to be really successful in negotiations, you need to lead. And in order to lead, you need to have the confidence to do so. How will you ever convince somebody of your point if you don't believe in it, and if your body language and your speaking language doesn't underline that you believe in it?
True, that's true. In our negotiation playbook concept, we see preparation as an integral factor for success. What's your opinion on preparation?
A story that I tell quite often to our people when it comes to negotiations and their preparations is the picture of a ski racer. Have you ever seen a ski racer right before his race on the top of the hill? You can see them standing there just before they started. They've got their hands right next to their head and they go right, left, left, right. In their mind, they're racing through the gates already and they memorize the exact run. And this is how I see preparation. It's not only really, really important, but it's got many aspects that are absolutely necessary for a successful negotiation. Take the knowledge about your counterpart. Right? This is not only anticipation of his possible goals that he's trying to achieve. It's also what kind of personality is it? What are his business needs? What are his personal needs? If I negotiate a price with somebody, I think to get the price down might be his primary need. Possibly true, but in the background there are lurking things like he needs to reduce risk. Maybe he wants to pursue a career and be really successful in something. So it's not only the single thing that's on the table. There are a lot of things in the back. And the more you know about your counterpart, the better you can include them in your negotiation strategy. And when you move, for example, into cooperation, that means when you start to talk about give and get, you need to have your gives and your gets ready. And you don't do that in a negotiation. You do that up front. And you need to prepare each give and each get quite in detail to know what's on stake for you and what's on stake for him. But utmost important, and that's really in our experience here, is you need to calculate know and stick to your walk away point. If you're in a negotiation and you haven't prepared properly for the point where you stop negotiating, you will lose the negotiation. Your counterpart will most probably push or pull you across the table, and you won't have anything to stick to. Preparation also means to have an insurance for what's going to happen during the negotiation. So, to sum it up, the more you know about your counterpart, the more you know about his needs, the more likely you will be able to lead the negotiation and thus successful.
And how about practice?
Practice is important, but before I go to practice, I would always say you need to have some form of talent and attitude. You need to like conflict. I know that people often don't enjoy to be in a conflict. They try to avoid conflict. That's really, really bad when you go into negotiations. So, but taking that as a prerequisite for what we want to do, then practice kicks into place, right? And let me pick up the example of the ski racer once again. I mean, you might like the snow and you might like to be up on the mountain top. If you don't practice, you will probably end at the bottom of the hill, but not on 2 feet, probably in hospital.
With all your bones crushed.
With all your bones crushed. That's obviously what we want to try avoid in negotiations. Crushed bones, right? So you need to practice. And practice puts you into a situation where you will be able to assess situation, where you assess your negotiation counterpart more calmly. You will be able to assess difficult situations and think instead of only feel. We as human people under pressure, we sometimes want to run away. With the right practice, you don't want to run away. You want to take on the conflict and go through the conflict and make it a successful negotiation. So that also means with routine, you will be able to assess the communication and negotiation style of your counterpart with calm, analytical eyes and not with pain or with fear or anything else. So no matter for how long I'm in the negotiation area, no matter for how many years I've negotiated, for each and every negotiations I practice, I rehearse. I rehearse with my team, we divide roles, and I ask them to be really, really nasty, because then I'm prepared for the worst.
So you're making kind of role plays before an important negotiation session, is it right?
That's absolutely correct. We allocate roles and we go through the negotiation or possible scenarios of the negotiations. You can go through an easy scenario, you can go through a difficult scenario, you can ask your counterpart to constantly attack you, and that really, really helps you to get into the routine with a specific negotiation right in front of you.
Exactly. From my experience, it's also you're not getting caught by surprise when the situation occurs. So you get more self-assurance when you're in this trouble.
Yeah.
More.
I have never been in a negotiation where there was not a surprise. So always expect the unexpected. But the only way to deal with unexpected things that happens is through experience and through practice.
Right, that's true. Jens, from my point of view, the fourth crucial aspect in negotiations are emotions and handling your emotions and those of your counterpart. What's your opinion on that?
Mihai, emotions are difficult. Obviously, they're part of our personality and part of who we are and what we are. We're all humans. We feel afraid, we feel good, we feel under pressure, we feel angry, we feel disappointed, we feel sad. There are all kinds of emotions that we possess. And in situations, we show these emotions. Now, we could discuss if that's a good thing to do in negotiations. I would say rather not. In negotiations, try to stay away from emotions because they're a gateway to what you fear. And if your counterpart, for example, knows what you fear, he might use it to his advantage. I would say don't show emotions. Stay away from them. The only way you could show emotions maybe is if you intend a use. So if you want your counterpart to understand that you are disappointed, or at some point you want him to understand that you're under pressure, you might do so. But you've got good reasons to disguise in many situations of a negotiation what you really feel.
So you see, you say that you should use emotions as a tactical instrument.
Yeah.
All right. But even experienced negotiators, and as you said before, we all are humans. You experience emotions if you want or don't. So the question to you is how do you cope with that? What I've understood is that you try not to show too much emotion to your counterpart. But nevertheless you will experience these emotions. So how do you train yourself not to show them?
Well, the two ways of answering that question. The easy one would be with experience and with practice, obviously, and we mentioned that.
Exactly, yeah.
I am able to master my emotions. But there is another side of it, and I think it's a very good question that you're asking here, is if you're negotiating with an ice block that has no emotion, that shows no feelings whatsoever, that's first of all a very unpleasant negotiation, and it probably is not very good and very successful for the ice block neither.
Yeah.
Because if you don't like your counterpart, and if you don't engage with your counterpart, that's no good. You won't be able to build a relationship that's necessary for a negotiation.
Yeah.
So we should not confuse these two levels of emotions. The one that I want to hide because I don't want to give anything away that my counterpart might use, but the emotions to show I'm a friendly guy. I like you. I enjoy the situation with you, and that's a golden rule. I think that's a golden rule for each and every negotiator. Always be friendly. Always be open-minded. If you're attacked, stay calm. Stay friendly. Don't counterattack. The maximum I ever do, even when I'm personally attacked in a negotiation, is to give a very careful warning. Mm-hmm. I never threaten back. I never attack back. And I think that is the kind of emotion that we need to show in order to get somewhere with our counterpart. Because if you're an ice block, nobody will like to negotiate with you.
Exactly. And also linked with emotions is the body language. I mean, we've talked about practice and emotions, and you can practice not to get overwhelmed by your own emotions, not to get overwhelmed by the other part showing tough emotions. Nevertheless, you have to get trained because your body will react to the situation. And if you're not trained in that, even if you want to hide or not to tell your emotions, your body will show it instantly.
True. First step to deal with that is to know what body language means, right?
True.
So if I see somebody who negotiates with me and he says something, he looks down to the bottom of the right, I know that there's something wrong, right? On the other hand side, knowing that also means I can prevent my counterpart from unmasking what I'm doing. So it's like with black rhetorics, with false arguments. If you know how to disguise a false argument, you should do so. But if you know how to use a false argument and it fits into the situation and it might give you an advantage in a negotiation, give it a try.
Mm-hmm. All right, this being said, so let's take a look at PwC. How do you implement negotiation excellence in your company? What is your approach?
We've come a long way. Obviously, we understood long time ago that the results of a negotiation influences our profitability. Having said that, if any company, whether it's PwC or anybody else out there, if you reduce your price by 10%, for many of us, that's already 50% of the margin.
Right.
So that is a lot of money. So I think we have an agreement across our company that we need to negotiate more professionally in order to prevent losing margin. And when I said we've come a long way, we've been putting that into the hands of our partners and of our consultants in the beginning. But we found out that was not successful because, to be honest with you, good negotiation is an art. And it is an art. You need practice, we've said, you need the experience, you need to know your strategy, your gives and gets, and all of that, and you need to help people to negotiate. So what we've actually done, we've set up at PwC a strategic negotiation office.
All right.
And that strategic negotiation office consists of 3 parts. The first part is the training part, right? We get our people in a classroom for 1 or often for 2 days, and we train them on how to negotiate. We talk about the prerequisites, we talk about preparation, we talk about negotiation strategy, we talk about language, spoken and body language, and all of these things that you need to know in order to negotiate.
So the basics.
The basics. The second thing is we have a pool of coaches. And if you, for example, are facing an important, perhaps even difficult negotiation, you can call upon one of these coaches. They come, they sit together with you and your team, and they prepare you and your team specifically for that upcoming negotiation. They work with you on the strategy, on the gives and gets, on your counterpart, on body language. They do a role play with you and help you to make that negotiation successful.
So every partner in the company can call a coach and say, look, I need help in preparing a tough negotiation.
Theoretically, yes. There's a threshold because otherwise we would have too much work in that.
No,
it's only for the large and important negotiations. Otherwise, you have to fall back on that training where really everybody can participate.
All right.
But after we started that, we found out that's not enough because we were in so many situations where we coached a partner who's also the relationship holder to that client, and he goes into that negotiation and out of rightfully fearing that he's endangering the long and good relationship to his client, he wasn't really negotiating. He was soft on facts, he was soft on strategy, and in the end the outcome was again negative, not because he didn't know what to do, but because he didn't want to endanger the relationship. So there's a third service that we offer, and it's the offer that we say to the partner, don't go. We'll go instead of you, which is easily explained to the client and say, that's our department who does these things. I'm out of the equation for the moment. They're tough guys, but you're tough too, don't worry, and he's out. Still, in the background, he's the decision maker. He's the one to fix the walk-away point. He's the one to say, that's what we're going to do, that's what we're not going to do. He's the one to say, that's what we're going to offer, that's what we're not going to offer.
But you go into the lead negotiator.
We go at the client. He's not going to be at the client's premises. He's not going to be part of the negotiation. He's in the background, waiting in his office for the outcome. We go and we negotiate. The advantage of that is somebody from PwC is there who really knows how to negotiate, and the GRP, the global relationship partner, which is the partner's role, he does not endanger his relationship. And that has proven to be really, really successful in many cases and fully accepted by our clients, who, by the way, themselves often are not in negotiation because they send in their procurement guys.
Of course. But this is the way how you get both wins. You preserve the relationship and you get good outcomes, financial outcomes for the company.
Absolutely. We struggled a bit in the beginning on how to staff that, because you don't want to staff that with junior staff. We don't have 100% professional negotiators who do nothing but that. So we fell back on a pool of experienced partners and directors. We trained them over weeks for that role. So for training, for coaching, and especially for the negotiation role, we have a pool of professional negotiators we can fall back onto. Sometimes they industry specific, sometimes they're language specific, sometimes they're situation specific. And we've been building that in Germany. We're extending that at the moment in Europe, and we're looking into establishing that across EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and Africa. And that is a challenge. It's a challenge because if you ever negotiated in Finland with a Finnish counterpart who's extremely calm, enjoys long pauses, looks at you without saying anything, that is a totally different negotiation culture than going into US or UK, where the Anglo-American style is more putting everything immediately on the table and then asking you to do the deal. Or if you go to Italy, wonderful example, Italy. Italians are relationship guys. They don't directly ask for things. They want to make friends. They use a lot of words to express a tiny little thing. You need to dive into that and also into the culture of it. And that is a challenge for our people to adapt to the cultures in negotiations.
Cross-cultural aspects are also crucial.
They're absolutely crucial. It really gets difficult when not only you're negotiating in a cultural setup, environment, but you've got 2, 3, or sometimes 4 different nationalities sitting at the table, and each one comes with his own culture, which you somehow have to master.
Then you need several approaches at the same time.
Yeah, yes and no. You need several. I wouldn't say you need one. I would say you need one approach that can be understood by all, but when you're addressing and talking to people, you need a different personal approach.
Communication style.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. All right, so I've understood that you have the S&O in place for the partners, for the GRP. From your point of view, why is it important that your employees know to negotiate?
I would take that away from PwC and put it onto each and every employee of a company. Negotiation skills are important. You maybe can put it to a very simple formula. No negotiation, no success, no growth. Maybe that's a bit oversimplified, but in the end, it boils down to that. We move in saturated markets. We move in highly competitive environments. If you don't negotiate your way through that together with your clients, with your suppliers, or whoever you might be confronted with, you will not get the good things out of it. And that's what it's all about. And we often think that negotiation is about price. It is sometimes, yes, but in many times, in many situations, it's not. It's about deadlines. It's about projects. It's about procedures. It's about methodology. It's about timing. Whatever it might be, you will be in a negotiation situation. And so are we. During our projects, during our tax and advisory assignments, when we audit our legal practice, they are all in situations of negotiations basically daily with our clients. And therefore, that is important that they know what they do. And sometimes it might sound like you're trying to get an advantage through a good negotiation, pull somebody across the table. That's not what negotiation is all about. Negotiation is all about eye level in talks, in intended talks, whether it'll be about price or anything else. And I think that's just a fair element of our business.
Well, it's about creating value and claiming a fair share of the value for yourself. But it depends also on the mindset. We talk about today about the mindset. There are both parts, like the people who come to the table who want to destroy you, it's tougher to get them into collaboration. Nevertheless, it's important with which kind of mindset are you sitting down at the table?
Yes. We don't use negotiation for unfair advantage. We use negotiation to defend ourselves against attack, and we use negotiation to have a fair, eye-level talk about a topic with our business partners. And if that's what it's all about, everybody in our company needs to have negotiation skills.
All right. So if you take a look back in history, what was your toughest negotiation that you ever had until now?
That's a good question, because sometimes negotiations are not so visibly tough. Sometimes negotiations are tough because the negotiation itself might be easygoing, but you're under stress because you've got pressure from your company. And you've got pressure from your boss to be successful, even though a negotiation is easy. So that's my own stress. But tough ones, I can vividly remember a very tough one. We're in Germany, and car manufacturers in Germany are very strong, and they traditionally are extremely good negotiators. So we were confronted in a situation where we asked to come in for a negotiation. Monday morning, 8 o'clock, far out, so you need to travel on Sunday, which already puts you under some pressure. You come in the morning, 8 o'clock, you're there. Your counterpart lets you wait until 8:15. You find yourself in a room without windows. So already you're there and you feel really, really awkward. But you're prepared, you've got your given gets, you know what the negotiation is going to be about. Everything is there. And the guy from procurement, he comes in, he goes to a flip chart, and he puts a number on the flip chart. And he says, happy that you're here. Please understand, I don't have time for you today. This is the number, the price we're going to buy it from you. So you can discuss it, and if you're okay, here's a green pen. You can just tick it off and then you can go home.
Nice.
And there we sat, and he left the room. That's the kind of pressure sometimes in negotiations that you're exposed to, and you have to deal with it. Now, what did we do? We took the green pen and we ticked it off, but we wrote underneath only under the conditions of. And then we put our 6 conditions underneath how we would, why and how we would accept that price that the client put up there. And we waited. And we waited for quite a long time. And after that time, he came back to check if we checked it in green. And he looked at us and he looked at the board and he sat down and he started negotiating.
All right.
So that was a nice experience. But believe me, we went through hell.
Did you win the project?
We won the project.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we are at the end of our talk. Thanks a lot for your time. It was a pleasure talking to you. I think the strategic negotiation office that you are implementing, it's truly visionary, not only in your sector, but for a lot of companies. I wish you lots of luck. I think it's the perfect way to proceed. The more competence you have in a company, the more negotiation competence, the better. Have a lot of fun in your upcoming negotiations. I wish you less guys who come in and write down the number on the flip chart. And hope seeing you again soon. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Thank you.